Gohan, the son who was meant to inherit everything. The closest we ever got to another Goku in terms of watching a character grow from childhood, seeing their entire story from birth to family man. This was one of the best things about the character. Unfortunately, it has also become one of the worst. And this is in no direct fault of Toriyama, but more so a product of the story continuing, in my opinion, longer than it should have, right? We're going to talk about Gohan throughout the two mainline series we see him in, and I'll touch on GT a little bit. I won't really go into too much detail as he's not really in there much, but as always, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment any criticisms you have, let me know. Tell me if you think I suck and if I'm wrong, and please consider leaving a sub. We're at 728 subscribers right now, and I would love to hit 1,000 by the new year. Also, my birthday is in like 2 days. By the time this comes out, it'll probably be either on my birthday or the day of my birthday. So please, leave a sub for my birthday, man. So let's get into the video, right? So Gohan's purpose in Z serves as kind of our replacement for Kid Goku, right? He's that relatable child to preteen age that the demographic of manga usually tries to hit, right? But from the very beginning, we see him as a pretty timid child with immense power, first put on display when Raditz kidnaps him and he's beating up on Goku, and the famous like, don't hurt my daddy or don't hit my daddy or something like that. And I'm pretty sure he like blew off the scouter off of Raditz, right? But this was the first time we saw a hint of Gohan's true potential. And if you know Dragon Ball, you're gonna know that this word right here, it follows Gohan. And I genuinely think it is a detriment to Gohan's character the longer it goes on, right? I used to love this idea that being able to unlock a new level of power in relation to emotion, right? Because I was a pretty emotional kid, right? And the idea of being able to get angry and get stronger, it appealed to me. But this followed Gohan throughout his time in Z. From a little kid, Gohan was always thrown into life or death situations for him to overcome, and so he was forced to fight. But I would say this was more so his Saiyan side, or you could say his Goku side, because Chi-Chi always wanted Gohan to become a scholar, and to be honest, he always had an affinity for it, right? If Gohan wasn't training, he was being a scholar, or not even training. If he wasn't fighting, he was studying, right? That's what Gohan did. But again, between the world-ending threats and just dangers to his own life, he was forced to step up in battle time and time again, whether it's from Frieza to Cell to Majin Buu. And speaking of Frieza, I do want to say I will skip over the Frieza saga because I want to get to Gohan's real display of power. And this isn't to say that Gohan didn't truly display power during the Frieza saga, but if we're being honest, the Frieza saga was really about Goku. Like by the end of it, Gohan got stronger throughout, but nothing that is relevant to what we're discussing today. But throughout the past arcs, it was always set up for Gohan to become stronger than Goku due to his half Saiyan heritage. Whether it was Vegeta talking about it initially, which is the first time we ever heard him talk about it, right? He acknowledged it. Or Goku or Piccolo talking about it. And this was ramped up even more during the Cell saga. As we got closer to the Cell games, the seeds were being planted every, little here and there. Mostly seen from him going Super Saiyan at the age of 9, which is crazy if you really think about it and look back at it, because, in the Buu saga, sure, Goten goes Super Saiyan when he's younger, but I'm not gonna lie, bro, the fruition of that doesn't even matter anymore. But at this point, he's the youngest Super Saiyan we have ever seen, right? But finally, we get to the Cell games where Gohan's full potential is put on display by him achieving what we would now call Super Saiyan 2, which is one of my favorite transformations and genuinely one of my favorite moments in all of Dragon Ball, as I'm sure a lot of you can agree, right? But this, I believe, is where Gohan's true peak was, and honestly, a lot of people, including Toei, would agree with you. We'll get to that later. But Gohan put on a masterclass of character development in this arc. When I say Gohan, I mean Toriyama, right? But seeing Gohan's hubris, his Saiyan pride, if you will, develop as he realized that he was leagues above Cell was a complete 180 from who he had always been. He was a child who never wanted to fight, harm anyone or even take a life. But now here he is saying that he wants Cell to suffer for what he has done, and honestly, justifiably so. But this isn't who Gohan is as a character. Does it stem from his caring nature and wanting Cell to be punished for what he did to, say, Android, was it 16? Yeah, 16, and, just the life on Earth, sure, right? But the story punishes him for it because it shows us that this isn't what is true to his character. So once Cell realizes there's no winning, he decides to blow himself up with the planet, which, you know, bitch move, but whatever. So Gohan is now helpless to do anything about it and realizes that he has lost the chance to save everyone, right? But it's like throughout the entire fight, Gohan had the opportunity at any point to take Cell off the board, and even the Z fighters and Goku were begging him to finish it, right? This is where the line comes in. It's like, no, I want him to suffer. But after that, here comes Goku, the main character, once again, that many of us had grown up with, to save the day using instant transmission to save the planet. And this leaves Gohan distraught. The idea that he could have ended the fight at any time, but decided to drag it out for his own entertainment and has to pay the price with the life of his father, right? Because it was just Goku, Chi-Chi, and Gohan. So that's a third of his family gone. But it doesn't end there. Cell comes back with an upgrade from, you know, his Saiyan cells. They give him a Zenkai boost, if you will. I mean, no, they did give him a Zenkai boost. But seeing this as a second chance to get revenge for his father and make things right, Gohan beam clashes with Cell. And they go back and forth, struggling to overcome each other. But Goku once again comes in to aid Gohan from Otherworld, and he tells Gohan to stop holding back and unleash everything to overcome Cell. Finally, he does defeat him, and that marks what I think should have been the end of Gohan's story, and honestly, maybe the end of Z, but you know, that's neither here nor there. And also, Toriyama allegedly would agree, because apparently Toriyama planned to end Dragon Ball there, but some of his editors begged him to continue the story, and you know, eventually they won, and thus we got. Now, I need to express that I do like the Buu saga, and for some reason a lot of people don't, which I don't get. I can see why, but I don't truly get it. But throughout the early parts of this saga, we see that Gohan has stopped training. He has taken up his studies even more because the world's been at peace for, I think he's 17 at this point, so it'd be 6 years, or he's 16 at this point. So I think it was either 5 or 6 years, right? And we see the toll this has taken on him, because by the time we get to Babbidi's spaceship, Gohan fights Dabura, who Goku and Vegeta claim is only on the level of Cell. So he should have been able to beat him easily if he had kept training. And this is something that will become another reoccurring character trait for Gohan. But fast forward through the Buu saga, Gohan achieves his ultimate form, a form that unleashes his full potential. And we see once again, he goes up against the main villain of the arc with, you guessed it, Hubris. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Gohan versus Super Buu isn't some of the coolest shit I've ever seen. It's one of the coolest fights in Dragon Ball, but the more I look back at it, I can't help but feel we're repeating and retreading story beats, which is okay at times, don't get me wrong, because characters do regress, right? Just like people do. But we see Gohan's indecisiveness once again take over, and it was his downfall as Buu absorbs Piccolo and Gotenks, 2 or I guess 3 people he could have saved, and along the way he himself got absorbed. And I wouldn't even say it's more so indecisiveness, it's more so him, you know, wanting to show off his power, explore his power, and in a way make Buu suffer, I guess. And I would be more forgiving of this if it wasn't what should have been the definitive end of Dragon Ball, right? If Super wasn't a thing, which it wasn't a thing at the time, like Super is 20 years off at this point, right? This would have been our last fight with Gohan, making him making the exact same mistake he did as a kid. And on top of that, losing, right? At least in the Cell Saga, when he did it, he redeemed himself and won, but here he just straight up lost. And this is where I think the problem with Gohan's character first really shows up, and this is a complaint in the community, right? He gets into fights that he knows he can win, and he absolutely fumbles due to his own hubris and Saiyan pride. And look, I know you can say that Vegeta or even Goku at times, they do it, right? I understand it's the Saiyan heritage, but like I said, it's more of a trait akin to Goku or even, no, akin to Vegeta or even Goku. I'm fine with, listen, I'm tired of Vegeta losing fights too. I will be completely honest with you. The Saiyan pride, I get it, but sometimes just let him win the fight, bro. But this takes effect with Gohan even more for me, because his whole thing is that he does not enjoy fighting. So why would he not end the fight quickly whenever he knows that he can? He knows he can win, right? Why, if you hate fighting so much and you just want to study, would you not just end the fight right there and then go home and study? But I digress. So that's the Boo saga. And let's continue on a superhero. And I'm not talking about Super. I'm not doing that. It's stupid. And you know, Gohan with Ultimate is somehow able to keep up with Super Saiyan Blue. And don't even get me started on Krillin. So no, we're not talking about Super. We're just gonna skip over straight to, let's go to superhero. All right, so superhero, I believe, is the most egregious example of Gohan's character retreading old ground. And is it cool and heartwarming? Sure. Does it finally make Piccolo relevant in a way that makes sense again? Yes, and I love it. I love that Piccolo is finally relevant again. But bro, you're telling me we have to essentially have Gohan go Beast, which is a form I think is really cool, by the way, but also just makes no sense. I'll put that out there. I don't think Beast makes any sense at all. The exact same way that he went Super Saiyan 2, like the exact same way, bar for bar. And look, bro, I love cool stuff, and I'll turn my brain off for stuff, bro. I'll turn my brain off for cool shit all the time, right? There's a lot of anime and manga out there that I've read or watched, and I'm just like, nah, bro, it's cool. It's aura. But the main reason this really gets to me is that if you look back at Dragon Ball all the way to Z in isolation, well, from Dragon Ball all the way to Z in isolation, the story is great, right? I love it. Like, sure, Toriyama was making up stuff as he went, but imagine going from the Saiyan saga, a twist of making Goku an alien, right? It was kind of hinted in the far reaches of Dragon Ball. If you kind of look back at it, was it hinted really? No, but it makes sense. To the Frieza saga, which is a somewhat spacefaring adventure, right? To the Cell saga, which is a time travel mystery that was done really well in my opinion, because if you're reading the Cell Saga weekly, right, and there's two time machines. There's this guy that's coming from the future that we don't know. Who's this mysterious Saiyan, right? Who's this, what's this mysterious thing that's going around killing all the people in these different towns, right? It's so cool to me. And then we go to the Boo Saga, which honestly, I can't really put in a single genre because it does a lot. Like, it does a tournament. It does a lot. But my point being made is like I said, imagine reading that weekly. Sure, Dragon Ball had its gag moments, but at the end of the day, the story written by Toriyama was honestly very coherent and linear. That's the most important thing, linear. Because honestly, all I'll say about GT is that they handled Gohan's character well with the little we did get of him, right? They let him retire from fighting, which we know is something he always wanted to do. He's a researcher at Bulma's company and a family man, which is something he always wanted to do. He has his family, he loves Pan, he's a researcher, he's a scholar. That's what he loves to do. But Gohan suffers from the fact that Dragon Ball became more about the money it makes the company, right, than the story. I am a firm believer in that a very good story should get the chance to have its end, right? And this is why I have a lot of beef with the MCU and, you know, little things like that, and cinematic universes in general, and comics. But unfortunately, one of the greatest stories of all time was resurrected, and in my opinion, story-wise, has been suffering ever since. And I truly do hope that with Toyotaro continuing Super, right? Because I do think the Super manga handles stuff a lot better than Super anime does, right? In terms of power scaling and just story beats, right? I'll give the manga that. But I truly hope that Dragon Ball gets the ending that it deserves with this next arc that I think should be going on next year. I think it'll be the Frieza Black arc, or the Black Frieza arc, however they say his name or whatever. But I truly believe Dragon Ball deserves to have its ending, and it being a great ending, right? There's some blemishes, there's some dark spots because of Super, but this story has been so integral to my development as a person, right? I've grown up, I've loved Dragon Ball. It's inspired my and so many people's love of anime throughout the years, and it's just a piece of media. Honestly, it transcends media, right? I honestly think Dragon Ball is a cultural staple, right? Dragon Ball is a cultural staple to our world, and that is why I think that it does deserve to have a proper ending and for these characters to have a good send-off. But that's my piece, that's my rant. This kind of become more of a rant than a video, but here we are. And like I said, as usual, if you enjoyed the video or if you think I'm wrong, please let me know down below. Please leave a comment, please leave a like, let me know what you think I could do better with these videos. And if you do like the video, please consider leaving a sub, and I'll see you guys next week. I love you. Bye.